Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Norwich Talk. Norwich City have just beaten Sheffield Wednesday 2-1. That is a big win for Norwich City. I know there's quite the cushion at the top of the table for us at the moment, but the way that game was going at 1-0 down for Norwich, especially given sort of the fairly poor first half, that feels really, really sweet. And, you know, it really shows the character of this Norwich City team. And I, for one, am proud to continue supporting them, of course. Now, the lineup was unchanged from the previous game, which was Luton, of course. Daniel Farke had a week for the first time in what is probably quite a long time to sort of prepare for this game. So naturally, I thought we'd play better in the first half, given that week, but we didn't. But yeah, sorry, getting back to the lineup, unchanged is fair enough. That's about as Daniel Farke as it gets. I know Alfie said in his preview about bringing Marco Stiepermann back, not for me personally, but the reasons that he gave I thought were probably fair enough. And sort of the change of number 10 today, to be honest with you, in the game, for me, was a positive change and helped Norwich sort of win the game in the end, of course. Now, that first half, yeah, we're obviously going to talk about it. We have to talk about it. Jordan Rhodes scoring. It wasn't a very pretty goal, was it? But it was a very smart goal from Jordan Rhodes. He always knows where to be, and as Norwich City fans, we're very familiar with that. Last time we went up, obviously he was here, and he just quite clearly has a very good footballing brain, which I absolutely respect. When it's for us, it's brilliant. When it's against us, it's scary. He gave Ben Gibson and Grant Hanley quite a few problems today. Gibson, I didn't think was particularly great, nor was Hanley, to be honest with you. They just sort of looked a bit off it, and the passes were bobbling up on the pitch, so that didn't really help. The pitch again today was terrible. And I can say that not bitterly because we've won the game, in terms of this idea that every time we try and play a pass, it'll bobble up and it's just inconvenient. But that is Championship life. For the rest of the season, Norwich City are going to have to play on pitches like that. So it's not really an excuse, more just an observation. But yeah, in the first half, everyone as on a whole was pretty poor. You got Buendia, Cantwell giving the ball away cheaply a few times. Before the Sheffield Wednesday goal, there was that little quick move involving Cantwell, Pukki, Buendia, I think, where it looked bright. But other than that, that was the only thing to sort of really happen for us in the first half. It was really frustrating, to be honest with you, because what I want at the moment, and I'm sure you do as well, is you just want that cushion to just grow and grow, and we can sort of relax and enjoy the rest of the season. Because as a Norwich City fan, there's never ever time to relax, is there? But of course, it's the Championship, and asking that is far too big of an ask. But at half time, and from a personal point of view, and I'm sure it's the same for you, actually, to be honest with you, I still believe that Norwich City would win the game, and that's just sort of Norwich this season, isn't it? They make you believe, and sort of you look at the progression from the beginning of the season, where there was a few people, myself included, to be honest with you, sort of questioning, can Norwich City bounce back from sort of the relegation in terms of the attitude? Because, when we went down, the attitude, I'm not going to say it was bad, but we looked defeated, didn't we? And confidence was in tatters, whereas this season, you look at sort of the progression of Norwich's confidence off the ball as well, especially in terms of defending, where you just believe in Norwich, don't you? And thankfully I did, and I'm sure you did as well, of course. And Norwich rewarded us, rewarded that belief, I think, if you can accept that phrasing. And it was really, really impressive. Now, the first goal, Teemu Pukki, was a wonderful finish. Really, really good. Pukki doesn't often show that, where he can sort of rifle the ball into the top corner, but Westwood stood absolutely no chance. And I'm just trying to recollect the goal in my head now. It came from, I think it was a pressing move. But again, at half time, Daniel Farke's message was clearly, keep doing what you're doing, but do it better. And on that point, quickly, I want to speak about this on a podcast in a bit more depth, but Russell Martin obviously had that clip going around on Twitter where you don't need a plan B, to be honest with you. And I've been a bit guilty at times of being a bit naive in terms of this idea that you need a plan B. No, just do plan A better. And that's what Norwich City did today. And that's what Norwich City have often done, to be honest with you. And I think I can only now really appreciate it, sort of hold my hands up and say, I was probably wrong about every team needing a plan B. That's definitely not the case. Norwich City just stepped it up a gear. And again, I say this every single match review, it seems, or especially for the last few, the difference in quality between the players, the Norwich players, and whoever the opposition is usually quite great, and you can just see it in terms of the moves that they put together. And even when Norwich aren't at their best, they're still winning games, and it's really, really sort of terrific to see. Now, Kieran Dowell came on, and I actually thought he was pretty decent, to be honest with you. He was unlucky not to score. There were a couple of chances where I think maybe he could have, but I think that's probably one of his more positive performances in a yellow shirt. Obviously, minutes have been sort of fairly dry for him with his ankle injury, and Norwich sort of keep winning, so Daniel Farke's not going to start him randomly. That's not going to happen. But when he came on, I think he allowed Norwich to just sort of naturally attack a little bit more. Lucas Rupp, before the game, there was this talk of he brings energy to the midfield, which I saw a tweet. Again, I can't remember who it was from, but it was a brilliant tweet in that this idea that Lucas Rupp brings energy to the midfield is definitely true, and it's right and it's fair enough. But when he's not, and when Norwich aren't really able to attack, you need to then sort of hold your hands up and be like, well, I say you, Daniel Farke needs to then be like, right, okay, it's time to change. And Kieran Dowd came on and I thought he was really positive. He carried the ball forward really well. There was a couple of bright spells, wasn't there? There was that move where he sort of flicked the ball over someone, won a free kick. He had a couple of those. And hopefully for him, now I'm not going to say he's the answer because I don't think he is, but hopefully for him, he can sort of maybe get a few more minutes, maybe earn himself a start at some point and really sort of come into a bit of form towards the end of this season. We've obviously got Marco Stiepermann to come back as well. So things are looking pretty bright for Norwich City at the moment. Now, the second goal was a really sweet one for me, to be honest with you, because I put a tweet out at half-time about sort of anti-Cantwell brigade, and it's mainly a joke, or it's intended to be anyway. But it was fair enough. He had a fairly poor first half. It was just attempting to be humorous on Twitter, which is something I probably shouldn't do. But the finish for the second goal was sublime, and it's really good play from Emi Buendia. He just knows where anyone, I was going to say Teemu Pukki, he knows where anyone is really in the attacking third. He just has that natural instinct to find someone in a dangerous position. And Cantwell, under pressure, I think the touch was slightly fortunate because the defender overcommitted himself, and I think the ball sort of ran under his foot. But the finish from Cantwell on his weaker side as well was really, really good. Again, Kieran Westwood standing absolutely no chance, and those two goals, sort of, Kieran Westwood can't do anything about them. And I don't know if it's just me who thinks this. I think everyone does in terms of Westwood being a top championship goalie. He's a great shot stopper. For those two finishes to be sort of the way they were, he was never going to stop them, and that's a good thing for Norwich. I'm sort of making less sense in my head now. But yeah, it was really, really good to see that sort of mentality from Norwich today in terms of sort of just being brave on the ball. And as I said, the pitch wasn't an ally today, was it? No, it wasn't at all. But again, towards the end of the game, I never really felt threatened, to be honest with you, by Sheffield Wednesday, because in the second half, they offered very little. There was a couple of glimpses. There was one from that number 8 for Sheffield Wednesday in the middle. I think he's had like an Italian-sounding name, where I wished that players were a little bit quicker to sort of get towards him, but in the sort of 85th minute onwards, really, you expect sort of energy levels to sort of decrease naturally, which is fair enough. Although, speaking of energy levels, Ollie Skipp was good for me today. There were a couple of misplaced passes, but the one point I'll highlight about Ollie Skipp is that he's actually quite quick, and that was highlighted today against Sheffield Wednesday's winger, and I'm sure we all know which chance I'm talking about, where the winger is just ahead of him, but Skipp sort of cleverly cuts inside, uses the inside lane, to overtake him, and I know he gave the ball away, but again, it was really bright stuff. But yeah, I think Yanulis as well was a little bit quieter than usual, although again, he was very positive in possession, getting the ball forward. McLean was quiet until sort of the second half. There were a couple of glimpses. I mean, you can sort of go through the whole team really, can't you, and say there were a couple of glimpses, but overall, it was a very resilient performance against a very, I don't want to say negative Sheffield Wednesday, but a very negative Sheffield Wednesday. They were set up in like a 5-4-1, which was as clear as day. And when you're in a position such as theirs, I think that's absolutely fair enough. I'm just really glad that Norwich managed to break it down and win the game. If they hadn't, I think I'd have been a lot more bitter in terms of the way Sheffield Wednesday were set up. But yeah, they're sort of my thoughts on the match. Again, I'm just relieved to have won that, to be honest with you. It made this Sunday a lot more enjoyable now, especially. You look at the previous results as well from the weekend. You got Swansea and Brentford winning, so I don't think that really sort of ramped up the pressure on Norwich, but it's nice to see that even when they're winning, we can continue our winning streak, which is now 8 games, which is, or 7, I'm not actually sure. Nevertheless, it's absolutely fantastic stuff. Hopefully we can hit 10, I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, I'm keen to know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Of course, if you could leave a like on the video, I'd be really appreciative of that. If you enjoy these videos, maybe consider subscribing. That'd be pretty cool too. So hopefully I'll see you soon in a podcast.